Let's talk about some extremely pervasive myths in the fitness industry that are just downright not true, that could be potentially slowing you down or ruining your progress, honestly. And there's a lot of influencers out there who talk about these things, and whether they mean to or not, they convince a lot of new lifters as well as even intermediate and advanced people who are into fitness that these things are true when they're just not. I was one of those people who was fooled into believing a lot of these things. And so I want to make sure that you can avoid being tricked into thinking that these things are true, because they're just not, and it's going to really slow down your progress. So there's 3 different myths I want to go over. And the first one, probably the worst one, is going to be that of believing in somatotypes, right? So somatotypes are, when you've heard this before, definitely. You may even right now believe that you are one of these types. But when people talk about ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, right? So like the ectomorph is the skinny guy who finds it really hard to put on muscle. The mesomorph, who's like athletic and kind of puts on muscle easily, and the endomorph, who's kind of overweight, the fat guy who has a hard time losing weight and just, has a pretty slow metabolism, right? These are all different classifications that were constructed by this guy, William Sheldon, in the 1940s. He was basically a psychologist, and he came up with these different things as a framework to put people into. And his idea was that you could actually predict someone's future achievement. You could predict their morals. You could predict their temperament based off of their body type. So he was also tied in pretty deep with some weird stuff if you look into it, like eugenics and whatnot. But it just doesn't really make any sense to use this for muscle building and muscle loss, because it wasn't intended for that. These were intended to be used as predictors for, like I said, temperament, people's morals, the way they acted, their attitude, what they might do in the future, not as their potential for fat loss and muscle gain. And really the main way that this breaks down is that you can change your somatotype, right? You can change whether you're an ectomorph, a mesomorph. It doesn't really matter. You can just basically change your body type. You can go from being an ectomorph to an endomorph, right? If you're eating a lot and you're eating a calorie surplus, you can go from skinny to overweight to fat. You can go from overweight to ripped. It doesn't really matter. So instead of using like ecto, endo, and all this, you can just use the terms, right? Skinny, fat, underweight, overweight, muscular, athletic, in shape. You know what I mean? You don't need to use these terms because they're just a description of how you look at a certain point in time. It's not, see, the thing is people use this as if this is like a thing that they are like genetically have to be, right? I am like predestined and determined to be an ectomorph, like a skinny guy, for my whole life. And it's just not true. And a lot of people use this as sort of a way to, as an excuse, not as an excuse, but also as kind of a limiting belief they have in their head that they can't actually get to where they want to go with their physique because of the fact they are an ectomorph. So you may have thought before, maybe I'm an endomorph, so it's just too hard for me to lose weight. Like I just can't do it, so I'm just gonna, lower the bar and just like, whatever, it's not a big deal. I'll just stay the way I am because this is how I'm destined to be. People say I'm an endomorph, or people say I'm an ectomorph. I'm too skinny. That's just the way that I'm supposed to be. And it's just bullshit, because that's absolutely not true, right? It is true that we all have differences in terms of what we're able to do, right? Genetically speaking, and we like everybody has like different frame. Everybody has different potential for putting on muscle. Some people store more fat cells than others. So genetically, there are differences, but to be using it in a sense of having an excuse, or in the sense of having it be a limiting belief that you can't change, is just ridiculous. Because I've been really skinny before, and I've also been overweight. So what am I then? Am I like all three? Because like it doesn't, you see what I mean? It breaks down. It doesn't make sense. Like if you're an ectomorph, okay, that's great, but you can just bulk up and become like an endomorph if you know what you're doing, or a mesomorph. So it doesn't really make sense. It's kind of pseudoscience. And this has been debunked like numerous times as just a very stupid way to try to prescribe, right? So it's a okay way. I mean, it's an okay way to describe how someone looks, right? Oh, they kind of look like an ectomorph, like they're taller, skinnier, kind of a smaller frame. You can use it like that. But when you try to prescribe, or you see things online with people trying to tell you, oh, you should train this way or eat this way because you're an ectomorph, or endomorph, or mesomorph, it's complete bullshit. Do not believe in that shit, right? That's like me saying, oh, so this guy is skinny over here, He should be eating, a lot more carbs than the guy who is a mesomorph, because, he's going to be able to gain weight fat. It's like, what? That makes no sense, right? Or me saying, yeah, you can do a bench press or a dumbbell press because you're an ectomorph, but the guy who's the endomorph, who's overweight, no, you can't do that. You need to do a different exercise. It doesn't make any sense, right? So using it as a way to determine what you should eat and how you should train is absolutely a no-no. Don't do it, right? You need to do it on a much more individual basis. And yeah, so that was a big myth I fell for, because I thought maybe, I was like ecto at one point. And a lot of people will market to you, and these influencers and different websites and articles and stuff, and even videos will market to you that if you're an ecto or you're a meso or an endo, that you need to literally train in a specific way or eat in a specific way, which is absolutely false. Now, again, I just want to emphasize that doesn't mean that I'm saying we aren't all different and we don't all have different genetics in terms of our potential for putting on muscle. You may find that you're an ectomorph, right? Or a quote unquote ectomorph skinny guy, but you have no problem packing on a ton of muscle, while another one of your friends who's also quote unquote an ectomorph or skinny guy doesn't really make any gains, even though you're both eating the same and training the same. Okay, so there's a lot more variance that goes into it. And honestly, I would just not even use those terms, because they're so watered down and generic at this point that it means nothing. You might as well just stick with saying, oh, that guy's skinny, that guy's overweight, that guy's fat, that guy's got muscle. Like, you might as well just use that instead of saying ecto, endo, all that stuff. It's a bunch of bullshit. So anyways, moving on to the second myth that basically you can forget about is freaking out and like getting super crazy about protein. Okay. People way overdo it with this. You have influencers and companies marketing to you all the time, telling you, yo, you need like 1 gram per pound of protein. You need 1.5 grams per pound of protein when you're cutting, all this stuff, right? It's not true. It's absolutely not true. And think about it. It makes sense for them to try to get you to consume more protein so that they can sell you more shit, right? That makes complete sense. They want you to believe in this myth that you need to have 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Otherwise, you're going to lose all your gains, so that you can keep going and buying their shit. Now, that's not to say that I don't buy protein powder, or that if you're someone who sells protein powder, that's bad. But really, in reality, if you do some research, you'll find that really at the top, at the very high end, you really only need like 0.82 grams per pound of body weight of protein, right? So if we were to take a calculator real quick here, I'm just going to do a calculation so you can see how much that would be. Let's just say you weigh like, I don't know, 160 pounds. Let's just say you weigh 160 pounds. That's kind of in the middle. So if you do 160, put your weight into the calculator, 160 times 0.82 equals 131 grams a day. Okay. So again, even at 131 grams a day, you don't need to hit exactly 131 grams. You don't need to even hit 130 grams. If you hit 120 grams, like that's close enough. Like, do you really think your body is just going to lose all its muscle like that because you didn't get 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein in, or you can't build any muscle outside of that? Do you think about it this way? All right. We have ancestors, right? Our ancestors were probably overall malnourished compared to how we are today. Okay. They would go days sometimes without being able to find the adequate nutrients. Yet I'm sure they still had a lot of muscle, and they were probably in better shape than most of society is today. So you can't sit there and be like, oh shit, I didn't have my protein for today and I'm going to panic, right? This is where you get into the sort of mental side of fitness, where people start freaking out and having stress over things that don't really matter. Okay. So again, focus on trying to get around 0.82 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Okay. And that's on the high end. Like, if you're doing that, you're good. Like, you don't need to fucking worry. Like, stop letting these people fool you into thinking that you need to make sure you're hitting like the exact amount, right? It's like, just relax and do the things that actually matter, right? The things that actually bring you the most results. And it's not getting super nerdy over 0.5 grams difference of protein every day. Okay. It's not going to really make a difference. The other thing is that protein is not cheap, bro. I don't know if you've noticed this, but protein isn't cheap. So unless you're, like really well off, a lot of times you might want to supplement with more like carbs or fats, because protein is not cheap. And like, you can't be going out and buying like nice steaks and stuff every day, right? I mean, that's pretty expensive. So again, it just seems like it's overkill to me. And from what I've read and researched and from my own experience, having 0.8 grams per pound is plenty, right? It's totally enough. And I feel totally great when I'm on that. Even less, I've done even less than that and I still feel fine. I've done like 0.6, 0.5. And yeah, that's not probably ideal with the amount that I train and stuff, but like, it's not the end of the world. So the way I like to do it now is just think about having it in a range. Okay. So let's say for this example, you're 160 pounds, 0.82, it's 130 grams roughly. Okay. If we round it down. So maybe your goal then would be anywhere from 110, 120 to 140 or 150 grams per day, right? If you eat a little bit over that or whatever, that's fine. If you eat a little bit less, oh, that's fine. Because think about it. Some days you're going to eat more protein than other days, most likely. I mean, you're not going to eat the same exact thing every day for the rest of your life, right? So maybe one day you have like some really high protein meal, and then the next day you don't. So you don't even need to do this every single day. You could stagger it out. You could stagger it out and do different days where you do high protein days, lower protein days. Okay, so the third and final myth I want to talk about is going to be finding the perfect exercises, finding the perfect workout split, finding the best workout program, okay? It doesn't exist. Let's just be honest here. It does not exist. There is no one workout program, one workout split that works best for everybody. Okay. That just doesn't exist. Like there's no such thing that works best for muscle building. Okay. Everybody's conditions and lives are so completely different that there is no one best thing. I've spent so much time researching, trying to find the best exercises, right? And honestly, it's overall just a waste of time because most of your results are just going to come from the gym and lifting weights. All right. If you're doing dumbbell flies, okay, or let's say dumbbell lateral raises, you doing a cable raise is not going to make, the world of difference. You might feel it a little bit better. Okay, good. But that's not going to make a world of difference. So what I focus on now is what is the best exercise for myself, right? What is the best exercise for you? What is the best workout split for you? And also taking into consideration, what about the rest of your life? This is the thing about fitness that kind of annoys me sometimes is it's so one-dimensional. It's like all these fitness channels are like, all they talk about is like fitness, workout split, how much protein powder, all this shit. And it's like, dude, there's a lot of other aspects of life that we need to consider here, right? What are we optimizing for? If your goal is to build as much muscle as possible, as quickly as possible, you're going to want to do a different workout split than, something else. Like if you're going to be a bodybuilder, you're not going to want to do like a full body workout, right? You're going to want to get more specific so that you can target and isolate different muscles, right? So you really have to think about what kind of is your goal. And also, how much time do you have? How much do you want this to be part of your lifestyle? Do you want to go to the gym 6 days a week? Do you want to go to the gym 3 days a week? Do you want to go 4 days a week, 5 days? You got to think about that and integrate that into your lifestyle because that is the best one. It's not what everybody else tells you to do. It's the one that fits well with your lifestyle and that, is sustainable and that you can be consistent with. The other thing is with exercises. For me, what's most important with exercises is not what the science says. Okay, I can watch 100 videos on what scientifically is the best exercise to do, but guess what? If I don't like that exercise, if I don't feel that exercise, if I can't do it properly and I can't get a good mind-muscle connection, I'm not going to do it. So how effective is it really if you don't even enjoy it and you stop doing it? It's not effective. So yeah, that's basically the last thing I just wanted to talk about was stop looking so much for the perfect exercise from other people, right? You need to experiment, find out what works for you, find out what fits into your future in terms of your lifestyle and what you want to be achieving, your vision. Think about it more holistically, I guess I could say. And think about with exercises, what feels good to you? What do you enjoy doing? Same thing with the workout program and workout split. Set that up in a way where it's enjoyable to you. You can stay consistent with it because at the end of the day, we can watch all the videos on scientifically what's the best thing to do, but we're all humans. And so we're not just robots who are going to be programmed to just do the best quote unquote exercise, right? And especially if it doesn't feel good to you, we all have such different body shapes and body types and like height and frame and like genetics in terms of like muscle insertion and everything that every exercise is going to feel slightly different to each person, right? None of us are exactly like a carbon copy. I mean, I don't know, actually maybe like identical twins, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, that's the third and final myth I wanted to expel for you so that you can spend less time searching for the best exercise. Okay. So you can still, I guess what I'm recommending is, yeah, still look up different exercises, keep learning and implementing new things and seeing what you like, but don't just follow along with what everybody says is the best. You need to tailor it to your body because your body's going to be different than everybody else and your habits and everything like that. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully you find some of this helpful. Hopefully you won't get stuck in those myths because they really are, some of them are actually more harmful than good. Honestly, like I almost want to say they're useless, but sometimes they can actually be harmful. And so it's even worse than being useless. They're literally harmful because it fucks up your mindset, fucks up your mental health, and it can actually literally screw up your physical progress in the gym because of the beliefs that you have. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.